I started really falling in love with a muzzleloader because I had no choice but to hunt with a muzzleloader if I wanted to write about adventures and big bucks and things like that. I realized that I was really enjoying it. I like the challenge. I like the challenge of taking a single bullet and measuring some powder and putting in the gun. When you shoot a muzzleloader, you kind of build a load every time and you understand what mechanically makes them work. I love tweaking the loads from 80 grains, 90 grains, and seeing what they would do and how the groups would change. So that really drew me in. Muzzleloader season is typically the best time to be in the timber.
Amen.
Number one, you're the first guy in the timber with a bang stick.
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching, for listening. We got a great show lined up for you today. We are at Hatfield Knob in, is this La Follette, Matt?
Yeah, just outside of La Follette.
Outside of La Follette. But we are at the Hatfield Knob where the elk viewing tower is located. We're going to do a few shows up here on the hill, and we're going to do some shows about elk. And we actually saw a few walking around out there earlier, so stay tuned. Keep coming back because the next shows are going to be about elk. But today we have Tony Smotherman with us. Going to talk about muzzleloader hunting, which is coming up this weekend.
Yes, we're right on the cusp of it. Tony, you're going to meet in just a minute. He always says muzzleloading is his favorite time of the year. So
All day long, my man.
should have plenty to say.
Yeah, it's been a good fall, been a good archery season. It's still a little warm, but I think
It's like 80 degrees today while we're standing here.
I know.
Can you believe that? It's almost November.
people are having fun though. People are getting outdoors. I've seen some decent deer. People are having a good time out there, and but this is my favorite time of year.
Absolutely, man.
The colors. It's football season. I said that last show, I think, and it's deer season. It's time to get the muzzleloaders out there. They're rutting. They're moving. It's gonna be fun.
Great to be a
bet.
Tennessean.
Sure is. And I gotta mention UT Vols. I mean, you know,
I knew it.
after the Alabama win, and then
They won something last week?
yeah, they won.
I was in a
something.
tree stand. I didn't get to watch.
So, yeah, pulling for the Vols. Tony, you are with BPI Outdoors, and tell us a bit about yourself, kind of how you got to where you are today, and then we'll dive into muzzleloader hunting.
Well, I got to be quite honest with you. If I talk about that, we're going to have to pull up a chair and ask for more airtime. But at the end of the day, I've been a very blessed individual. I've been working in the hunting industry, well, the better part of 30 years, which sort of dates me here now. But I started in the outdoor industry at 19 years old as an outdoor rider.
Awesome.
And at that time, there was no cell phones,
No technology.
no emails, none of this iPad business. There was none of that. So, like, when I wanted to be an outdoor rider, it took months just to get somebody to even, because I had to snail mail, write somebody a letter to the editor and go, hey, I sure would like to write this article about hunting with a muzzleloader. Well, 6 months later, I'd get a snail mail right back in the mail. So
Yeah.
it's been a huge change from when I started to where I'm at now. But I started out as an outdoor writer. I started out writing for our home state publication called Tennessee Outdoor News.
Okay.
So I was 19 at that time. I ended up purchasing the magazine when I was about 24 or 25. Ran it for 10 years. And as I was doing that, I realized that you had to come up with queries, basically submissions, things you wanted to write about. And the publication I love to read most and still love to today is North American Whitetail. It's about big whitetail. And at the time, Tennessee, did not have big whitetail.
We're getting better.
We do now. So I would read North American Whitetail to read about these big bucks and how these guys harvest these big bucks. And I noticed that most of these big bucks were from the Midwest at the time, okay? Well, I grew up hunting with a 270 here in Tennessee. Well, guess what they don't allow in the Midwest?
High-powered rifles.
High-powered rifles. So I had to pick up a muzzleloader. So I started hunting with a night muzzleloader, an MK85. That MK85 come out in 1985. I started shooting it in 1993, I believe it was. So I started really falling in love with a muzzleloader because I had no choice but to hunt with a muzzleloader if I wanted to write about adventures and big bucks and things like that. So I had to go basically where the big bucks lived. Again, at that time, it was not here in our home state of Tennessee. So I started hunting exclusively through the Midwest and basically just dropped hunting with a centerfire because I spent most of my time hunting those Midwestern states to try to find big deer. And I realized that I was really enjoying it. I like the challenge. I like the challenge of taking a single bullet and measuring some powder and putting in the gun, because I'm a mechanical-minded guy. I like building hot rods and building things. And when you shoot a muzzleloader, you kind of build a load every time, and you understand what mechanically makes them work. That's what drives me to a muzzleloader, I think, other than the great opportunities across the country. But you would load your powder, load your bullet, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I love tweaking the loads from 80 grains, 90 grains, and seeing what they would do and how the groups would change. So that really drew me in. So when I was riding for TON, most of my stuff was about muzzleloaders, and then I inadvertently crossed paths with somebody that worked at Knight Rifles.
Okay.
Started by Tony Knight, basically the reason we're here today, the reason we have inlines today. He created the inline in 1985, the MK85. So I started working for those guys kind of as a pro staff guy, if you will.
Yeah.
And ended up started writing monthly columns in their paper, if you will, magazine. Their magazine was called Up in Smoke. So I would write articles in their publication and end up writing all the safety and instructional DVDs for every gun. So every time somebody bought a Knight muzzleloader, it would come out with a instructional DVD about how to use and clean and maintain your muzzleloader properly. Well, I was the guy behind the scenes actually writing those DVDs.
Wow.
And then got
What's
into...
a DVD? No, I'm just
Yep.
For you kids listening.
Again, dating me right now. Dating me. And then eventually stepped in front of the camera, as we are here today, and started hosting the DVDs that I was writing behind the scenes for. So I got very intrigued about television, if you will. So from there, I stopped being so much of an outdoor rider and stepped into doing more television stuff, and ended up hosting their television show on the Outdoor Channel for many years called Knight Rifles Born to Hunt. So after that, I was just muzzleloaders all in. I didn't pick up a centerfire until like 3 years ago. So I went full muzzleloader for like 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was from Newfoundland to Alaska, and then pretty much everything in between, hosting those outdoor TV shows, and all with an inline.
When we first met, we went on a turkey hunt together, Governor's One-Shot Turkey Hunt. That was an awesome hunt. If you hadn't seen that, go back to our YouTube channel. It's still out there.
Still there?
Still out there.
My goodness.
And
stuff goes on the internet, lives on forever, apparently.
Does. Be careful what you put on there, kids.
But that's an awesome hunt. It needs to stay there. People need to watch it. But you were shooting a CVA that day, but it was you had the 12-gauge barrel on it, which I think is cool about CVA. You swap out those barrels, and I guess you can still do that these days.
Well, we've drifted away from that, but that gun was called an Apex, and it had the interchangeable barrels from 223, 300 Win, and then to the 12-gauge turkey gun that we were using on that particular
hunt. That was a fun hunt, but we won't linger there. But muzzleloaders are awesome, and that's why we're here today to talk about it. And I think that's an awesome story, how you come from the ground up. I mean,
no doubt.
I just knew that I wanted to be in the outdoor industry. Your paper just blew off right there.
Let's catch that. You'll keep going.
I just knew I wanted to be in the outdoor industry, and it wasn't obviously for fame or fortune. I kind of grew up in a situation where here in Tennessee, I grew up as a coon hunter. From 4 years old till I could carry a wheat light. Some of you guys may know what a wheat light is. I carried a wheat light on my side with a helmet on, a little hat or a hat lamp.
Yeah.
And we coon hunted for years, and then things change as you get older, and I found cars and girls and found other things that I shouldn't have been into, some alcohol abuse. Of course, as a teenager, you try to do everything in the world, and I was going down the wrong path as 13, 14, 15, 16, a little bit of blur those years. But I met a kid in high school that was a big bow hunter. He goes, "Hey, man, you ever tried bow hunting?" I'm like, "Nah, man, I sure hadn't." He said, "Well, let's try it."
Wow.
I'm like, "Sure, okay."
That's cool.
So he got me into bow hunting, and I didn't realize at the time what a bad place I was in. I thought I was the cool kid, but I really wasn't a bad spot. And this kid got me into bow hunting, which literally captivated every ounce of my time and stopped me from the Friday night, Saturday night parties.
Therapy of the outdoors.
Outdoors saved me.
Yeah.
No, all jokes aside, the outdoors saved me. So when I got to like 18 and 19, when my frontal lobe was developing and I smartened up, and I look back and I go, outdoors saved me, man. I could be in jail or dead by now.
Cool.
So I knew that I wanted to start promoting the outdoors, because if it could save me, it could save somebody else.
Definitely.
So I wanted to start telling my stories and my travels and the fun, not to brag, but I wanted to tell the fun that I was having in the outdoors. And my avenue at that time was writing, and of course the start was Tennessee Outdoor News. But what got me here today is I wanted to be in outdoors because I wanted to save somebody like it saved me, or help save somebody like it saved me.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. I know somebody's probably feeling that same thing.
The point of that is, if you want to be something in life and you want to be that bad enough, you can be it. Because I am not an educated guy. I barely got through. Here's a crazy
fooled
thing.
me because you know a lot.
Here's crazy. So my worst subject in high school, English. And I'm here today. I'm here today because I started out as an outdoor writer for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I read enough to educate myself, reading through publications of how I need to be
interested in.
Yeah, I was interested in it, and basically that changed my world and got me where I'm at today. And talking here at this amazing facility here in East Tennessee.
Yeah.
So if you want to be something, you can be it. You just got to want to be it bad enough.
Awesome.
And
It's inspiring.
We could cut the show off there if you want to. No.
Thanks for tuning in.
I ain't real smart, but I don't quit.
I tell you, he's one of these 110% guy. Whatever he's doing, he's into it.
It's both
all
feet.
the way.
It's both feet, bro.
Oh, I love it, man.
Well, 110% into muzzleloading. It's coming up this weekend. What do folks need to be thinking about? Say they've been hunting archery season all long, but they're trying to switch over. What do you tell them just to get them started, and then we'll jump in deeper?
So, in my personal opinion, I think that muzzleloading, the muzzleloader season, not just in our Vol state here, but across the country, muzzleloader season is typically the best time to be in the timber.
Amen.
Number one, you're the first guy in the timber with a bang stick. Mm-hmm. And when you pull one of these babies out, it's no longer catch and release. Oh, man, I saw him yesterday at 60 yards. Don't let him show up muzzleloader season at 60 yards because it's almost too close.
All right.
So you're the first guy in the timber with a bang stick. And then, of course, the weather's typically getting right. And then all through the Midwest, the really great states everybody talks about, big bucks, and even when you get into Kansas and Oklahoma and Nebraska, they all have amazing muzzleloader seasons that if you don't pick up one of these, you guys are missing the boat because these extend your opportunity to be in the timber at a really good time, either early season like we're coming into probably pre-rut sort of here in Tennessee, or late season Nebraska when bucks are back on feeding patterns and they're coming to the same food source every day. And if you're not hunting with a muzzleloader, you don't get the opportunity to see that.
Yeah.
And even better is when you go to Kansas. Kansas has an early muzzleloader season like September 10th. Well, guess what the bucks are doing at that time? Every one of them is coming to the same food source every day with all their cousins. 15 bucks show up in the field every day at 4 o'clock.
A lot of social activity.
It's like going to the grocery store. When you go to the grocery store, you want to buy a steak, you don't go look at one steak. You look at 15 of them, go, I kind of like that fatty one right there.
Yeah.
So in Kansas, if you have a muzzleloader, you have an opportunity to hunt bucks when they're all together and they're doing the same thing every day.
Pattern them and take your pick.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Where we're in Tennessee, yes, great time. Weather's getting good. But it can be hit or miss because they're starting to think about ladies again.
Right, right.
And now he's not on camera anymore because he's on 2 farms over. So the rut's a little bit of luck in my personal opinion.
Sure.
But with a muzzleloader, you have an opportunity to hit so many different sections of season, early season, rut, and then late season. And that's with a muzzleloader.
Well, our past show, or one of the most recent shows we shot, we talked about how that transition's happening, and those bucks are now, like you said, with those does, hanging out in different areas than what you're used to. Your mindset has to change, right?
Oh, you bet.
It's a new game.
I know everybody right now is changing their cameras, they're changing stand sets because they're going off acorns, and now they're getting on scrape lines and things like that. So it's time to shift.
Do you stay mobile with your stands, or are you pretty much finding a stand, you staying there?
I have multiple stands on multiple farms for every different wind direction in the world, but I typically keep them on lock-on style or ladder stand style. I don't really climb with a climber anymore. I'm getting a little older. So I like to put them up early, but deer are creatures of habit. Most of the farms I've hunted for years, so I got history. I already know what they're going to do before they're going to do it, sort of.
Where they're going to do it at.
Yep, so I have lock-ons up in preparation for that. So now it's time to shift. Lock-on's already up. I've already been in there in August to make sure the straps are good, make sure everything's tight, make sure the seat's good. I just have to change with them.
I think that's a good point to make to a lot of newer hunters. Deer will typically do the same thing in the same place year after year after year unless there's something that has pushed them out completely and discouraged them from that area. But they will leave those scrapes and rubs and have that social interaction pretty much in the same areas year after year.
They're very repetitious critters. And so you think about it, you think, maybe that's not true because I shot the big buck off my farm last year. Well, I like to say when one dies, 3 come to the funeral. Because you kill that big buck, guess what? Somebody's going to take over his spot.
That's right.
And he may not have been the guy you saw on that scrape line last year, but I guarantee he's been to that scrape line, because that scrape line is a social hangout for everybody. So even though that spike buck showed up that scrape line last year, he might be an 8-pointer this year, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
He'd be a bigger buck this year, and he wasn't a man last year, but he could be the man this year. Back on the same scrape line, though.
Exactly.
Creatures of habit.
Yep, for sure. One thing I'm glad you mentioned was that safety aspect, checking those straps and stuff. That's something we don't talk about enough, is tree stand safety.
You're right.
Wear that harness. Make sure your straps are not dry rotted from the year before.
Make sure the squirrels ain't eat them.
That's true. Yep. It can be dangerous. So double check those, and if you're one of those hunters that like to leave it out all year round, make sure you check it for that next season.
That's me.
That's you.
Maybe because I'm getting lazy.
But
I do go in and check the straps, though.
You talked about hunting property you've hunted all your whole life, but what about that public land guy who's maybe new to an area, hitting that public land? He knows it's muzzleloader season. What's your tips for him? I mean, he's coming in blind. Are you looking for some of the same sign you're looking for on a private land?
So in front of me is bolt action muzzleloaders, break open muzzleloaders with adjustable cheek pieces, all this fancy stuff. All this is the new bullets here. All this is technology. Well, this phone right here has give us a lot of technology too, and helped us to hunt new properties like Onyx maps and all these base maps and all this kind of stuff.
How'd I know he's going there?
Well, and I don't work for neither one of those guys, but I do use them a lot because, like, literally, you can go, "Hey, Tony, I got a piece of property in Kentucky. How about you check it out?" I'm like, "Yeah, ain't no sense driving up there. I just pull this baby up, find it, and I know right where to put a tree stand at just by looking at it from the sky."
Yeah.
Maybe in this country here, in this elk country, it may be a little tougher because there ain't no bottlenecks
elevations
and draws over here much.
Can you give a 2-minute tutorial on
he can't do 2
how
minutes.
you read the land?
I can't do 2 minutes
like
on
that?
nothing.
No, you ain't kidding. 20 minutes. What do people look for if they're going in blind to hunt a place? What we want to set up a stand to muzzleload hunt.
So if you read an article or read a publication, there's probably going to be some article in there of how to deer hunt, where to find big buck sign, all this kind of stuff. That's what's in the print publications now.
That's what sells.
That's what sells now.
Yep.
And like literally when they talk about bottlenecks and pinch points and draws and funnels, a lot of that stuff makes sense to me when I think about a funnel. It's how to get oil in a car engine. But basically, they mean it's a pinch point. It goes from here to here. Well, when you find one of those, everybody's going to go through there because it's a tight spot. And it typically is where a field narrows down or something like that. You can find them from the sky in about 15 seconds. Go, oh, yep, I ain't never been there, but I'm going to put a tree stand right there. So from the sky, you always try to look for those pinch points because that's always the place where a deer is going to travel because they're not going to come through the timber and then just blankly run out across a 40-acre field unless they're being pushed by something. They're going to hold the cover, and from the sky, it's pretty easy to read.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a real smart guy, but it's pretty easy to read.
Can you see deer trails on X? Have you ever zoomed in that much where you could identify winter trails or anything?
So not so much here, but like Iowa, all day long.
Oh yeah,
wow.
The trails up there as wide as this table. And about that deep.
Main Street,
bro.
Wow.
Main Street. So you can see stuff like that. Especially,
okay.
And of course, it depends too when they took the photo for Onyx or whatever. Sometimes sometimes they have foliage where you just can't see down into it because of the canopy. But sometimes you can. So yes, you can.
There you go. That was 2 minutes.
Hey, that's good. Yeah.
Well, and I've just skimmed across the top too, boy.
No doubt.
Well, we're here about muzzleloaders, and I love CVA. I shoot a CVA myself. It's
Likewise.
an older one, but they're good guns. Let's show some folks, if they're new to hunting, whether they buy a CVA or not, what are they looking for the season? What do you suggest when they go shopping for one? And then let's get to the range and talk about sighting them and being ready.
Well, there's in today's world, just like going to a car dealership, there's 50 different kind of makers on the shelf. We have other companies that are in the business as well. Fortunately for us, we've been in business since 1971. We are the number one muzzleloader manufacturer in the world. I feel very prejudiced that we probably make the best muzzleloaders in the world today. And it comes down to caliber choice and fit and feel. Like this gun here is our new HTR. This is a bolt action gun. This gun here is a Acura LRX, which is a break open style. This gun is not for everybody. It just takes a little more effort to utilize. This break open style, much easier to use. I think the biggest caveat is what distance do you plan on hunting or shooting, I should say, not hunting.
And in Tennessee, there's not a lot of long range stuff.
Right. And so then that separates us down from 45 caliber or 50 caliber. Since being in the muzzleloading side of the outdoor industry, the 45 caliber has come and gone like 3 different times. It's like it's a rocket ship. It'll come in and it's awesome. And then to get right to the top where you think it's going to hang on, and it just dives away and falls off again. So 4 years ago, we started playing with bringing a 45 caliber out again, but we changed things up. And I think the reason that the 45 come in so quick and then went out so quick is that back in the day, we were basically trying to make the 45 caliber a rocket ship. We were shooting wicked small bullets, like 200 grain bullets, some 175s, really short bullets. And if you think about it, if you're a bow hunter, if you remember, golly, this dating thing. All right, so this dates me too. Okay, so do you remember the days of the overdraw when everybody shot really short arrows?
Yeah.
Well, they wanted speed. Okay, well, that's like the 45 caliber. It come in, and you don't see anybody shooting overdraw anymore. Everybody shoots full-length arrows because a longer projectile, whether it's an arrow shaft or a bullet, stabilizes better in flight. So everybody get the 45 thinking, oh, they're super fast, but then they realized that they lost steam quickly because the bullet's so small. It didn't have forward moving inertia. No different than me standing here as a 200-pound guy or a big giant linebacker standing over here at 400-pound or whatever they weigh. If we're both running side by side and we both slam on the brakes, it's going to be harder for him to stop it as me.
He's got more force.
He's got more force moving forward. So I think that the demise of the 45 caliber over the course of time has been that we always shot smaller bullets. Today, this bullet here we designed specifically for our 45 caliber. This is a Powerbelt ELR. This is a 285. So it's quite heavy, but it's also extremely long. The longer the projectile, long arrow, short arrow, the longer the arrow, the longer the bullet, the better it stabilizes in flight. More kinetic energy it has, the better it flies at distance. So I think now that we've stepped into the technology world the last 4 or 5 years and to muzzleloading, the 45 caliber is here to stay. So the biggest choice is how far you want to shoot. The 45 caliber is great at close range, but really is built for long range muzzleloading, where a 50 caliber still kind of a fat bullet, still kind of short and squatty. So if you're going to be 200 in, 50 caliber's your man. If you want to be 100 to 700, 45 caliber is your play.
Wow.
That wasn't even in the discussion, that kind of yardage a few years ago.
Hey,
just out of nowhere.
Bro.
Yeah, with a muzzleloader,
In 1992, when I started this game, it's dates, man. In 1992, we was 75 yards was our play.
75.
75.
That's just getting cranked
I can
up.
throw this gun pretty good at 75 yards, bro. So, yes, things have changed tremendously. And here's another thing. We're kind of getting into a rabbit hole here, but if you're a reloader or a centerfire guy, one of the things that's very important to you when you pick a projectile is ballistic coefficient. And ballistic coefficient is basically, in layman's terms, how this bullet cuts through the wind. We have never, ever talked about ballistic coefficient in a muzzleloading projectile until like 3 years ago, because basically we were shooting a big hunk of lead and there was no BC. It's like shooting a piece of plywood. It didn't cut through wind. That's the reason we were talking this 75-yard business. But today we talk ballistic coefficient of muzzleloading bullets now. So amazing push forward from just not too many years ago.
Before you go too far on something else, I do want to mention these bullets. They're not just accurate. They kill.
Oh, man.
I will vouch for them all day. I think we've shot 7 deer since we've started hunting with these and recovered every one of them. Your old Powerbelt, not to pick on Powerbelt, we lost a lot of deer that we shot what looked to be good shots on them, just wasn't able to recover them.
You bet.
These do the job.
Yeah, so the ELRs are a totally redesigned projectile. Even though it still is under the Powerbelt brand, we still make it in our same facility that we made Powerbelts years ago, but it kind of goes along the same premises of what we talked about today: technology, headphones, technology, guns, technology. We've changed the projectile makeup basically. Yes, it's a Powerbelt, still has a gas check at the back, still has a copper coating on the side, but we made them to where that they perform under Magnum charges that we shoot in muzzleloaders today, to where they don't come apart, where they don't flatten out. They have controlled expansion by putting a certain material inside the lead that I can't mention. But it's the old saying is it's not your granddaddy's bullet.
Yeah.
It ain't your granddaddy's bullet. The power belts that you're talking about, yes, they do have a bad rap when you do a search on the World Wide Web, but those bullets that you're talking about, they're shooting bullets that we designed years ago to shoot 80 grains of powder, and that was GoX. Black powder is when old school
legit black powder.
And now they're still taking some of those bullets, just being uneducated, and they're running them in hot rods like these, and they just don't perform. These ELRs. So if you see an ELR bullet, whether it's a 40 or 45 or a 50, they're a whole new makeup and
matchy powder.
Matchy powder, man.
They're wicked.
Yep, they are wicked. So, yes, it doesn't bother me to hunt with these here whatsoever. They're amazing projectiles, and we're talking BC, controlled expansion. In our 40 cal, we're talking 2,700 feet per second muzzle velocity. I mean, they're awesome. And, the great thing about what I do here at TVA, I work with all aspects of media, and that's TV shows and magazine owners, editors, publishers, YouTubers, podcasters. I get to work with every line of media, so I hear a lot of wonderful stories. And, yes, it is hunting season. And, of course, right now out west, those guys have already been through muzzleloading season and for elk and mule deer and stuff like that. So lucky on those dudes. But I'm getting wonderful stories on a daily basis right now where guys are taking these new Paramount guns and a 45 caliber and efficiently and very effectively harvesting elk at 600 yards. And I know it seems like, oh my goodness, that's a stretch.
Yeah.
It is, but with optics like we have today and modern propellants like Blackhorn 209 and modern bullets that is designed to shoot with today's guns, that stuff's very possible. They're doing it all. They've been doing it for the last 2 months out west in Utah, Idaho, all those great western states has got elk. Speaking of elk, yeah.
And like you told me before, I mean, I bought one of these thanks to these guys. They introduced me to it. It's an awesome gun, but they will mail this gun to your doorstep. That's what's awesome about it.
That is pretty awesome.
Explain that to
So
people.
it's like if you go to Amazon.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I always got a comedian in a bunch. So it's like I say, it's like going to Amazon to buy a pair of socks. You order it on Amazon, 3 days later, it's on your doorstep. These guns are the same way. So there's other bolt-action long-range muzzleloaders on the market that you can purchase today. But the CVA line or family of Paramounts, which we have the original Paramount, and we have the HTR, and then we have the Paramount Pro. So we have 3 in the family right now. And they're the only bolt-action muzzleloader on the market that you cannot alter when it leaves us. So even though it's based off a Remington 700 platform and it's bolt-action, it is always and can only be a muzzleloader. So it ships right to your door just like a Wolf would, which is our entry-level muzzleloader.
Sure.
Yeah. Man, a lot of information. We didn't even cover everything.
Can't believe it's over.
Yeah, time flies by. Muzzleloader season is opening up this weekend. It's the 5th through
The 18th.
18th.
Yep.
Go look at the website, tnwildlife.org. Make sure you check your guide. Matt's got one right here in front of us.
Page 18 of the current hunting guide.
There you go.
Muzzleloading regulations.
Perfect. Get outside and enjoy what Tennessee has to offer. You got beautiful stuff like this. You got great hunting, great fishing. Tony, I thank you for being with us.
Hey, man, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, bro.
There's so much information. You traveled a long way to help us out, and I appreciate it. Get out there and try one of these guns out. And if you're not trying one of these, get a different one and go muzzleloader hunting.
And the
It's a
Wolf
great time of year.
The Wolf is no slouch.
No,
the
Wolf's
Optima,
great. Yeah.
They're awesome guns, so don't feel like, oh, I've got to go for the Mac Daddy Ferrari. Those are fantastic
The
guns.
Wolves
I
are
have
awesome.
one.
Probably the number 1 selling muzzleloader in the world is the Wolf.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, sure enough.
They
If
work.
you have any questions, guys, you can always go to cva.com. There's videos there, and of course, all kind of information on these guns, and you can break them down as far as weight and trigger pull and length of pull and barrel length and all the mechanical information you need to know to help you make a decision.
And where can people find you, Tony, on social media?
So,
Follow you.
because of all the traveling I do and hunting I get to do, everybody knows me as Traveling Hunter. So anything Traveling Hunter, and that's redneck Traveling Hunter. No G, it's Traveling Hunter.
Traveling Hunter.
Yeah, man.
Check him out. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.